Alright, so this is the second video going over our first day review. 13, 14, 15, and 16 on the back ask us to solve using the square root property. And they ask us to simplify all irrational and complex solutions. So here's the big idea for this. I looked at this and I couldn't remember what they meant by the square root property. What they really mean is just get x squared by itself and then solve. So here's what I mean. For number 13, I have x squared plus 100 equals 0. Is x squared by itself? Yes, no? Almost. It has a plus 100. So how would I get rid of that plus 100? So I'll subtract 100 from the left, and then subtract it also from the right. Now I have x squared equals negative 100. I need to get x all by itself, so what should I do? What will undo the square root? The squaring, square rooting, perfect. So undoing squaring is square rooting. X squared, square rooted, gives me just x. Now I have the square root of negative 100. What am I going to do to break it up? Can I get the square root of a negative, though? So you break it up into the square root of negative 1 times the square root of what? 100, the positive version of the number. Square root of negative 1 is going to be what? So we have an I in our answer. What is the square root? Let me rephrase that. What are the square roots of 100? Positive 10 and negative 10. So, for number 13, x will equal, I'll put it in brackets, positive and negative 10i. For number 14, same exact method. I need to get x squared all by itself. What will I move first? I'll subtract the 27 from the left side and from the negative 13 on the right side. When I do that, I have 2x squared. Negative 13 minus 27 more will give me negative 40. But my x squared is still not by itself. I will divide the left and the right by the 2 in front of the x squared. And now I have x squared equals, what's negative 40 divided by 2? Negative 20. And just like in the last problem, I will square root the left side and the right side, and I get x equals, now I have to break up the square root of negative 20. Break it up with a negative 1 and a positive 20. Square root of negative 1 we know is going to be I. Square root of 20, I need a perfect square that goes into 20. So the square root of 20 is the square root of 4 times the square root of 5. And between those two numbers, the square root of 4 has a nice easy number, which is 2. The square root of 5 cannot be simplified anymore. So what I have here then is x equals, and just like the one before, you're going to have two answers, a positive and a negative version of 2i times the square root of 5. For number 15, same procedure again. This time, though, what we're first going to do is just get rid of the constant. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, I believe I want to subtract the 1 on both sides. I think that's what they do here. Actually, no, I can factor it, make it faster. There we go. It's been a while since we did these. What two numbers multiply to give me a positive 1, but will add to give me a positive 2? Positive 1 and positive 1. A little start here because I'm factoring in it. All right, so basically what I have here is just x plus 1 times itself equaling 16. I need to get the x by itself, so what do? Square root the left side and the right side. So I get x plus 1, that comes out of the parentheses. What are the square roots of 16? Positive and negative 4. So what I'm going to end up with is two equations. X plus 1 equals positive 4. So I subtract 1 from both sides. Subtract 1 from both sides. And you get x equals what? 3. Now I do the other one. I'm going to do x plus 1 equals negative 4. You subtract 1 from both sides. And negative 4 minus another 1? Negative 5. So your answers are x equals negative 5 and positive 3. And then our final one on the back is going to be number 16. 16 for this one, let's see, what we're going to want to do is factor it again, because 10 and 25 are all related to each other. What two numbers will multiply to give me 25, but it will add to give me a negative 10? Negative 5 and negative 5. So if I rewrite it, I really just have x minus 5 times itself equaling to positive 3. And then once again, I will square root both sides to get rid of the exponent. And I have x minus 5 equals the square root of 3. Actually, what it's going to be is the positive and negative square root of 3, whatever that number is. So what am I going to do with that 5 to get x by itself? Add it from the left and add it to the right. So what I get is x with this 5 plus or minus the square root of 3. So x equals square root of x equals 5 plus or minus the square root of 3. And you can always review the videos on imaginary and complex numbers to get more practice or just to review these kinds of problems. Because this was pretty fast, and I don't necessarily expect everybody to get it right away, just from the very beginning. All right, so 17, 18, 19, and 20 all revolve completing the square. So let's see now, I'm not going to lie to you, I haven't done this since the day we did it, so I'm going to relearn it again to myself, really step by step. So first of all, you have to make sure it's in standard form, make sure it equals 0. We have that going on over here. Next thing, you want to take your b value. You want to take, in this case, it's going to be, get my pen with me. So I have my negative 4. I'm going to go ahead and take that, and I'm going to cut it in half and then square it. So what's negative 4 cut in half? Negative 2. And what's negative 2 squared going to give me? A positive 4. So this is what I'm going to add to both sides of my equation. So what I have to do first now, remember correctly, is move this piece to the other side. So I have x squared minus 4x. If I add 45, it goes to the other side over here. Now, I have a positive 4 that I just got from the middle. That gets added to the left side and to the right side. So I have x squared minus 4x, with the 4 added to the left, and I have 45 on the right side, but also 4 added on the right.
Where'd you get the fraction?
The rule for completing the square was take your b value. We had it in our notes. It was take your b, cut it in half, and then square it. It's one of those really weird rules, because we only did it that one day when we did completing the square, and we never saw it again in anything else. So, to be honest, with the test tomorrow, on Thursday, when they ask you, I'll let you use any method you want. Factoring, completing the square, quadratic formula, which tends to be the easiest one. Whatever you want to get the answers, because it all does the same thing. Completing the square is okay, but it gets to be a little tedious. So let's go ahead now and combine our like terms. First of all, I know on the right side, 45 plus 4 is going to be what? So that's nice and easy. Now, let's factor the left side. The whole point of completing the square is to get the same factors. Have x and x. What two numbers will multiply to a positive 4 and add to a negative 4? It has to be the same number, though. What kind of 2? A negative 2 and a negative 2. So what I have, and I'll rewrite this right here, is x minus 2 times itself equaling 49. And you're going to solve it just like we did above. You're going to square root both sides. Get x minus 2. What are the square roots of 49? What kind of 7s? Positive and negative 7. So you're going to do one equation where you get x minus 2 equals positive 7. And another equation where you get x minus 2 equals negative 7. For both of them, you have to add 2 to both sides. So for my first answer on this one, when I add 2 to 7, what do I get over here? 2 plus 7? 9. And over here, when I add 2 to negative 7, what do you get? Negative what? Negative 5. So my answers are going to be x equals negative 5 and 9. 18, I'll leave for you to do. But I do want to hit up, I think, I'll let you guys pick. Between 19 and 20, they're both almost exactly the same. Which one would you like me to work out? 19? We'll take a vote. If you want 19, raise your hand. Got 2. If you have 20, I got 3 for 19. Okay, well, 20 wins by slightly bit larger margin. So we'll go to number 20. All right, so for number 20, we have our constant on the other side already. So what I need to do is figure out that b value part. So I'll take my b value, which is negative 28, the number with the x. First thing you do is you cut it in half. What do you get? What's half of negative 28? Negative 14. And then you're going to go ahead and square that, I believe, right? Let's see, I feel like I did something. Oh, okay, you did 196, but I'm going to make it even faster now. Is there anything I could do to make this equation on this side a lot easier? Yes. What will go into 2 and 28? 2. So if I cut everything in half, I get x squared minus 14x. You could use the 196, but when I did the work earlier, you didn't have a lot of extra steps. So let's make a little note to ourselves. Simplify when possible. These are going to be your notes. So I divided all this by 2. Let's go ahead and divide the negative 134 by 2 also. What do you get? Anyone with a calculator tell me what's half of negative 134? Negative 67. All right. Now, like I said before, if you didn't simplify anything, you have to simplify to the very end and still get to the right answer. If you do it in the beginning, it'll make our work a lot faster. So now I'm going to do the b thing again. So I have negative 14. What's that cut in half? And what's negative 7 squared going to give me? Positive 49. So I'm going to add 49 to the left side and to the right side. So now I have x squared minus 14x plus 49 equals, and what's negative 67 plus 49? Use your calculators, please, and let me know what you get. Negative 18 is correct. Factor, because it is the perfect square. So what two numbers multiply to give me positive 49, but add to give me negative 14? Negative 7. So I continue my work over here on the left, so I have the space. So I have x minus 7 squared equals negative 18. What do I do now? And you get that x minus 7 all by itself. Square root the left and the right. So I have x minus 7. Does the square root of 18 come out to a nice number? No. So how can we get an 18? We change the color, I have to show them. Next step. So how do I get the square root of 18? Okay, so how do I get, what times 9 will give me 18? So square root of 9 times square root of 2. Which one's a perfect square? So that gives me what? Times square root of 2. It's going to be what kind? What kind of 3 should I have? Positive, negative. So now I have, oh my bad, yeah. I have an I, plus or minus 3i. That should be I had a negative 18, right? There we go. The I goes in there. So now we have, what do I have over here? 3i, x minus 7. All right, so I have x minus 7 over here being repeated. Equals all that crap. How do I get, let me make this a little nicer. X minus 7 is left over. How will I get the x all by itself? So you're going to have x equals a positive 7 plus or minus 3i square roots of 2. I'm not sure if we're going to have one that complicated. You might only have one that complicated on your test. I'll leave you with the front and with 19 and 18 to do on your own still. And then I'm going to upload the video for the front one as soon as I get it processed right now.